change. And so it's these gatherings like this and us being able to unite in this way that help us understand each other more and understand how we support each other and how we uplift each other's work in important ways. So I'm so thrilled to be here with these amazing leaders and for us to be able to host this webinar and have all of you on here. I'm going to turn it over to Marla to introduce our speakers and our agenda.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining. Appreciate your time. As Navina said, so much going on right now, and this is part of it. This is how we show up for our communities. Again, gratitude to each one of you for the time that you're taking today, and just thankful to be in community with you all. So my name is Marla. I work at HEAL. I work on the School of Political Leadership with some of the fabulous folks that we'll be sharing with you today, and others that are also on this webinar. Hey, all the other SoPL folks, good to see you. And I'll just give you a little bit of context. So this conversation that we're about to have came about with a conversation we had with one of our HEAL members, Black Mesa Water Coalition. And I just want to give a shout out to Roberto Lewis over there, who actually was really sharing with us like some of the intricacies involved with the current situation in Navajo Nation. And he suggested that Gloria, Stephanie, and Dana, who you'll be hearing from in just a bit, actually share a little bit more about, how different communities are being impacted in Navajo Nation. So I just wanted to express gratitude to Roberto and Black Mesa Water Coalition, HEAL member, for helping us develop this idea and helping coordinate. And yeah, so today, our topic of conversation is Webs of Support, how Navajo Nation School of Political Leadership, SoPL for short, leaders are advocating, organizing, and farming during COVID-19. And we're going to feature a few of our SoPL leaders to share, who are Diné folks living and working on and off the reservation from different points. So I want to just present today Gloria Ann Begay, Executive Director of Diné Food Sovereignty Alliance, Stephanie Hall, Executive Director of Talani Lake Enterprises, and Dana Eldridge, farmer, researcher in Diné Navajo Nation. And they'll chat in just a sec. Let me just scroll through to our agenda. This is the sequence, and everyone will share a little bit about different topics that they've been working on throughout the years. Gloria is going to speak with us about federal policy and how this informs federal aid for Navajo Nation, as well as some tribal overlays, tribal government overlays. Then we'll switch to Dana, who will speak a little on the challenges of being a young farmer at this time and longer term Diné food sovereignty efforts. We'll hear from Stephanie about how Talani Lake has really pivoted at this moment, from providing workshops to on-the-ground technical assistance. And I know all our speakers have some actions and links to further resources for folks to support if you'd like to, and if you have capacity. And then we'll finish up with some time for Q&A, and that'll be the hour. So I'll be, again, we're recording this, and I'll be keeping time. So Gloria, Dana, and Stephanie, my apologies in advance if I interrupt you with a gentle reminder of time. So let's get started. I'll turn it over to to Gloria. And let me pull up your PowerPoint, Gloria, as you get started. And if you're talking, Gloria, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. I was thinking I was going to see myself on the screen, but that's fine. Yes, my name is Gloria Ann Begay, and I am a Navajo Nation citizen. I am Bitterwater clan, born for Tutchitney clan, and I am also mini goat clan from my grandfather's side on my mom's side of the family, and also Tobaha, water edge from my grandfather from the other side of the family. And I have a home out at Inscription House, Arizona, but currently I'm living with my daughter here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, kind of like, you know, kind of in stay at home kind of thing. So anyway, I am with the Dene Food Sovereignty Alliance, and I and some other colleagues organized this particular nonprofit to help restore the Navajo food system and also restore traditional Navajo foods on the reservation. And so we've been doing a lot of researching, training, and having people understand what is food sovereignty. It's a very kind of complicated definition, and so a lot of people are trying to learn how to understand it and then become involved. But when we all say we all are eating food, we need food, and this is what we're trying to say, is that we have the right to our own traditional foods. So then folks start realizing what we're trying to do. So I'd like to kind of begin my presentation on, you know, why the federal government is so tied with our Navajo government and also Indian tribes across the country. And it's kind of sad to see what is going on across the country with the George Floyd issue. I am very saddened to see the way people are trying to resolve that issue through, you know, well, the violent part of protesting. But the message is clear. There is racism in this country, and we need to really work on that issue once and for all. And I think that's the other thing that the COVID-19 is also teaching us globally, is that there needs to be some changes happening in America and all over the world. And when people are even protesting in Paris and Belgium, you know, that just has a lot to what people are feeling and experiencing in other places in the world. Next slide.
Great. And Gloria, are you able to turn on your video screen at all?
I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Why I can't get it to.
Oh, you got it. There we go.
Did I?
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see you now.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, I wanted to kind of explain where Navajo people come from, their world perspective. And this is my very first lesson in my Dene Food Sovereignty curriculum. So everyone gets a look at this particular image, and we discuss, you know, who is the man in the middle with the corn stalk in the middle. And, you know, that's each and every one of us. And as Native people, we look at each other as all related. We have 5 fingers, we have gifts of intelligence and growing knowledge, spirituality, and all these wonderful gifts. And so our job is stewards of the land and of our people. And so when the man's extending his hands out and we see the spirals, those are all the positive energies in the universe. And then of course there's Father Sky and Mother Earth, and we look at everything as interconnected. We live among our, and right within our sacred mountains. And so this is where we are told, even in tribal law, that we are stewards of the land and we are to take care of the land and each other. And we're one of the few tribes that has that codified. And so we understand, you know, our position and our role and responsibility here on the earth. And so even I take this lesson all the way down to third graders. I do it at men's and women conferences, and everyone gets it. And the final message is that everything's interconnected. And if anything gets broken, earthquakes, anything that's environmental, or even ourselves when we're sick, we've broken this beautiful universe, and we're causing disharmony when there's breakages in any of the beings in our universe. So that's why we have a very deep responsibility to taking care of each other, and the land, the water, and all of those wonderful gifts in this universe. Next slide. Now this is a topic of what my presentation's about. And it's kind of just a brief overview of federal Indian policies. And so it's very important that we understand that as Navajo people, as Native Americans in this country, the federal government has already imposed all of their federal policies since way back when George Washington and the founding fathers came and organized their American government. And so there were federal major policies that tried to annihilate us. They tried to assimilate us. They tried to even remove us. And a lot of Indian people were removed from their original lands. And so it's just caused so much problems among the Native peoples surviving in this country. Also, they set up even boarding schools to take away our language and culture. It broke apart our families. And so a lot of this trauma has still impacted our country here on Navajo. And we're trying to keep surviving and moving forward as Native people. And Navajo Nation is fortunate to have their land and a good part of their original inhabitant lands. So we know how to take care of ourselves, our land. We've been given all of this instructions from our holy people, our ancestors. So, but when, a federal government system has been trying to take all of that knowledge away from us and try to change us over to the American way of life and their ideology, it's really caused a conflict. And now with this COVID-19, it's really a message to all of us that, we need to change. And I think some of our, as our Navajo president calls it, some modern monsters among us. And some of those, and I know my young colleague Roberto alludes to, capitalism, there becomes now greed. It's just, let's make money kind of thing. And so it's just caused a lot of disruption in a peaceful, good way that we used to live. And that's what DFSA is trying to do, is restore some of those ancient and valuable lessons and values and practices. So federal government policies are still here in effect. The underlying motive has always been to, I guess, get rid of the Native Americans and then take their lands. We have very valuable lands out in Indian country. Next slide. And I guess I want to maybe first mention too that Dana writes a real wonderful description of how way back in 1868, the Navajo tribe signed a treaty with the federal government, and we just celebrated the treaty signing this week on Monday, June 1. And while some say it was a celebration, we were freed from imprisonment in Fort Sumner, New Mexico. We got to return home to our lands. But yet that started the beginning too of the federal government taken away our culture and our languages and our beautiful Navajo way of life. And they did things like, burn out our orchards and fields, starved us out. And so food was really a critical key way of them forcing us to be in prison and try to change our ways, our Navajo way of life. And that's still happening globally. You see that. You see all these other countries are being starved out, and they're still using food as the tactic. So food is a very valuable resource to all of us. And so we're not taking it very lightly as we're trying to restore our Navajo farms and ranches out on Navajo. Now this next slide just gives a little briefing of Navajo policies. And we do have a very elaborate government system, 3-branch government. We have a lot of our own tribal laws, and those laws right now are protecting us during COVID-19. And the tribe had to even use its own money and go to Indian Health Service Navajo Area Office for health money when the federal government kept holding on to the CARE Act that was supposed to go to tribes. And finally, the Native Nations got their money just a couple of weeks ago. And so now we're trying to organize how are we going to use those resources and monies to best fit the Navajo Nation. And yesterday, President Nez gave his wish list of let's get water back on the reservation, let's get more health services to address these issues. We need to get more law enforcement. And so he gave his big list, and it's in our tribal government website. And if any of you want to see that list, you can go to Navajo government. You can Google that and even see some of our laws and policies. There are a lot of other funding sources afforded to, of course, all Americans and then to tribes. And they have become so fast, though, that, we're missing deadlines and we can't gather, these applications and all of that. And of course, we have online issues, communication issues out here on Navajo because of the remoteness and isolation factors out here. I guess next slide. Or is this my last slide?
You have just about a minute left, so.
Okay, yeah. Well, we're trying to all raise awareness of the food and agriculture issue, and our job is to educate the public, and that's what we're going to do with Tools That Heal is helping train us, and so we're very happy to join the HEAL organization. Next slide. And again, we're returning to traditional values and practices. This is a planting ceremony we do in the springtime before we begin planting. And my last slide. These are some contact informations, my contact. And like I said, Google to Navajo government. And you can get to the local chapter leaders and ask, what do you need in your communities? And of course, there's even pockets of organized, like the Shiprock group. There's a contact there to Josie. And then also to Navajo Nation government has their relief effort. And I forgot to put their phone number if you wanted to contact the headquarters. But it's 928-871-7014. And I'll leave that with Marla and the other group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Appreciate you sharing with us. And yeah, we are gonna be sharing the recording with everyone. And we'll also drop in the chat box the links to some of the resources that you all are mentioning. So with that, let's switch over to Dana.
We will have a few minutes for Q&A at the end, just so folks know. So if you have any questions for Gloria or any of the other speakers, please drop them in the chat and we'll try to make sure we get to all of them.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, everybody, Sheya, Tenjikin Nishlan, Ado, Bilagana Bashichin, Kiani Dashichedo, Norwegian Dashinale. My name is Dana Eldridge. I'm of the Honeycomb People Clan, born for the white American is my dad. And my maternal grandfathers are of the Towering House people. My paternal grandfathers are of the Norwegian people. I'm very honored to be here today. I'm joining you from Window Rock, Arizona. And I'm an independent researcher and young farmer on the Navajo Nation. I'm someone who lives without running water and electricity. And so during this whole COVID crisis, we've seen a whole exacerbation of the issues that we've been facing for a really long time. It's kind of like really brought everything to the forefront and shown people the vast inequalities that we live with on the Navajo Nation. We live in a resource colony. Our energy is extracted, mined and extracted here on the Navajo Nation. They say we live on the richest energy corridor in North America, meaning there's a higher concentration of uranium, oil, natural gas, helium under our feet than anywhere else in the country. So all of this is mined out here, it's extracted out here, and then it's sent to power the Southwest. So if you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Las Vegas, Phoenix, anywhere in the Southwest, chances are you get a lot of your electricity and your resources from the Navajo Nation. And we also supply water to all of these regions. And since this whole COVID thing has started, it's made these issues of scarcity that much more real. We have to haul water from a local windmill where I live. I live about 12 miles back on a unmaintained dirt road that's pretty intense. It's like really washboarded and everything. And the local well where we have to get our water from, it's just been down to a trickle since this stuff started, because people aren't able to go to the chapter houses like they normally do to go haul water. And so it's really taxing us out there in the rural areas and making it really difficult. And you know, I'm sure you can just imagine if you don't really have reliable access to water, how that impacts farming and your ability to grow. I wanted to jump on too with what Gloria was saying, and to give a little background on Navajo Nation government. The Tribal Council and the government was founded in 1923 by the Bureau of Indian Affairs after they discovered oil on the Navajo Nation. And it's been a legacy of the current political system that we live under, that resource extraction has always been the #1 priority, and the needs and the interests of the people have been secondary, if even that, to the interest of major energy development. And all of this has been orchestrated, as Gloria had mentioned, for a very, very long time. And we're in, it feels like a battle for our right to water out here on the Navajo Nation. Gloria mentioned June 1st as Treaty Day. Something else happened June 1st. This Monday, we found out that the state of Arizona had denied Navajo Nation a request to extend a comment period on a major piece of documentation that's come out on water rights that have been in litigation since 1985. And the tribe's Department of Justice had submitted a request to ask for an extension due to the COVID crisis that we're facing out here. And that request was denied by the state of Arizona. And it just, you know, really goes to show you what they think of us. Arizona, Southern Arizona, you go down there and they have golf courses, they have pools, they have fountains that literally shoot water into the air just to evaporate. And we we're being denied even the most basic right to water out here. And it's kind of egregious when you read the language of these policies and like the language of these hydrological surveys, because they're talking about quantifying water on Indian land, meaning in terms of reservations. But it feels like this moment we kind of need to like call things for what it is, and the reality is it's all Indian land that we're on. All of this water comes from Indian land. And you know, this moment in time, I hope, you know, it really does transform into something better than what we've been dealing with. Because the reality of this country is that America is built on stolen land with stolen people, you know, and we've been dealing with this kind of paradigm for over 400 years, and it feels like enough is enough, and people are really fed up. And I want people to know out there too that we stand in solidarity with the Black community, with our relatives. And you know, people are indigenous people too. They were stolen indigenous people that were brought to this place. And so I really look at Black liberation as indigenous liberation. It goes hand in hand. And my hope in being part of this webinar and being part of these efforts is that we can illuminate and uplift the collective struggle that we're all going through, because just like our oppression has been interconnected, so is our liberation. And I really hope that folks after this webinar take a moment to consider where your energy is coming from and where your water comes from, because it comes from the exploitation of largely indigenous people and indigenous land. And you know, now that we kind of have this spotlight on us because we're in grief, and because a lot of people have passed in our community, I really hope that people can stand with us in our fight for water. We have been not only living without water for a very long time, but this litigation, it's been ongoing since 1985, since the tribe filed for water rights. And you know, to have the state of Arizona deny us an extension on a comment period, you know, what's 3 months compared to decades that you've been waiting for water. And it feels important to find hope in all of this. And I do want to give a shout out to all of our young farmers that are out there, and all of our farmers that are out there on Navajo Nation. A lot of people have been inspired to plant because of the current crisis we're in. People are going back to their fields. They're calling on our ancestral knowledge, on our ancestral wisdom to find a way forward through this and to really reignite. I feel like even though we have to socially distance, the spirit of our philosophy of interconnection and interdependence, and realize that, you know, we can't make it out alone in this. We have to do it together and work together and come together in all of this. I just like, I'm so overwhelmed by like so much like gratitude and compassion too for all of the people that have like come out in support of our people during this time. And I would really encourage people to support the big Navajo Hopi COVID Relief Fund, because those folks are out there on the ground delivering food, delivering water to people and people in the rural areas. And it's really amazing to see a grassroots campaign come together to take care of the basic needs of the people. When obviously the federal government has failed us. They're not honoring the treaty. they're not honoring, you know, the agreements that they made. The state is failing us clearly, and even in some instances, you know, because our tribal government is like under this legacy of being a enabler of this resource colonization, and sometimes, you know, the tribal government isn't even out there for us. So it really is up to the people, and it really is up to this collective unity of support both on the Navajo Nation and from off the Navajo Nation that I feel like is giving us hope in this moment. And I really do. I really hope and I really pray that together will transform this, because we are the manifestation of our ancestors' prayers. And that's why every one of us is here on this earth today, is because someone thought about us, someone prayed for us a really long time ago. And, you know, our people have made it through a lot. We've made it through genocide, and we're still here. And despite all of these attempts to eradicate our people, we're still going to be here. And I know that we have a lot to teach people about how to cope with climate change, how to deal with climate change, because we're already doing it out here. Navajo Nation is at the forefront of climate change in terms of desertification in the so-called United States. We know how to live without running water. We've been doing it for a really long time. And as America goes through this like very tumultuous and hopefully transformative period, I hope people remember us and know that we have a lot to show and we have a lot to teach. Yeah. I don't know if I am on time, Marla.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to end, Dana. And we can come back again when there's questions. Thank you so much. So I want to shift over to Stephanie. Stephanie, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Hello.
Hi, Stephanie. Welcome.
Hi, how are y'all doing? So my name is Stephanie Hall. I have a presentation, I think. My clans are Kintlachitni, Nishlin, Tepnazetni, Bashishchi, Kiani Dashache, Sinjikina, Dashanella. First, thank you, Dana, for really, putting a lot of really great words to, I think, what a lot of us are feeling. These last couple of weeks have been very, very transformative for me, but I've also been switching from coffee to chamomile tea in the morning. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my organization and our partners and kind of some of the shifts and adaptations that we have had to plan and implement over the last couple of months due to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. But first, my organization is Salt Lake Enterprises, and our mission is primarily to strengthen food, water, and economic systems on Navajo Nation. And we do that because we know, as Dana mentioned, we are one of the central points of climate change with the drought, the erosions, the encroaching sand dunes, and a lot of really bad practices from the BIA as far as like rangeland management and the conflicts between the BIA, Navajo Nation, and the state of Arizona and the federal government, just all these different entities making it almost impossible to really develop an agricultural landscape, especially a regenerative one that's not dependent on putting different types of inputs that are not, natural into our food ecosystems and our ecosystems at large. And we also know that our young people are Navajo, and there's an increasing amount of young people who want to participate and want to do something to make a difference and to be creative with the differences that they make. And we have an abundance, of knowledge of our elders. And I think that's what's heartbreaking to me. About what's going on in Navajo is we're losing a lot of elders, a lot of that knowledge. And so some of us are kind of trying to figure out what's a good way to go forward. And so I just wanted to highlight two projects that we've been working on that we've had to pivot. We work on a lot of different projects, but the two that I felt would be most meaningful to this conversation today are something that kind of came from our young people, and then something that came from our elders who have been working in these systems for a long time. So go ahead, next slide. All right, so before the coronavirus hit last year, we were on a roll. We were out in our local communities doing a lot of community engagement with our elders, with our farmers, with our young people, our chapter officials, really spreading this message of having a regenerative identity within our culture of, and specifically with agriculture, with food and water. And out of that conversation and out of that work, our youth team developed this really beautiful Sahassan garden and mobile cafe idea that they planned. They worked and started gathering resources, and they started gathering partnerships to build this cafe in a way to kind of model the type of regenerative, non-capitalistic way of building a business, something that could be, not just for the bottom line, but to kind of integrate values, our traditional values and the beliefs that we have as Navajo people into this business, and then to show that it could be successful not only within our communities, but kind of expanding out to our border towns, and to kind of create this really great momentum of solidarity within our young people and within our communities. And this team was out at, they participated with the MIT Indigenous Solve projects. They were partnering with the National Science Foundation on innovation. They're sharing the work in Washington, D.C., in New York City, Colorado, all sorts of places. And again, they were led by really young and energetic, creative people. And through their work, they were tapping into resources, local and regional, and they began navigating different legal structures that were available to them to build this business. And they were starting to tackle the hardest part of building an economy on Navajo, which is infrastructure development, which, building a business site lease, making those connections so that, a person could potentially think about building a brick and mortar store if that was, the way that they wanted to go. And there's so much, challenges on Navajo when it comes to building businesses and infrastructure and economy, because, we don't have anything out on Navajo as far as, like, if you go into my community of Loop, there isn't a section that's zoned off for businesses for something like this. It takes a lot of effort for a community or for a business to be able to get the community to start building the momentum in order to at least zone it out. So, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to building businesses, and this youth team was trying to really figure out and navigate those challenges. Next slide. And so this was, the dream. They were set to launch in April with this Indigenous inspired light fare foods and coffee. And there's a lot of really great work with local organizations like Change Labs to try to build their marketing plan, their logo, their social media presence, and everything was ready to be launched. And then coronavirus hit. And so they had to kind of draw back. First, the launch was postponed, and then it was canceled. And then our young people started seeing what was happening on Navajo Nation about, with our elders starting to get sick, and with our people starting to get sick, and with the confusion about, who is really providing resources to our community members. And then looking first to our chapters, our local chapters, to see what, kind of resources were being put out there, and there really wasn't any. We then reached out to our county, and the county was kind of also trying to reach out to our local chapters. And so, we're just trying to figure out, how can we help? How can we shift? How can we work within this new environment? So next slide. And so first, we of course had to adapt, just that whole physical space. So we did a lot of decreasing the amount of volunteers that were coming into our organization, which was unfortunate because, we do rely a lot on volunteers, but we also wanted to make sure that we're keeping people safe. So we decreased the number of volunteers that we had. We increased the number of hours that our team had. Then, went through all sorts of trainings in order to make sure that we were, working within the safe environment and ensuring that we continue to grow within our season. Yeah, and so a big shift was, okay, so we have these resources. We have a ton of resources that we had for the projects that we're working on. So we had to hustle to try and work with our funders to make the funding that they gave us a little bit less restrictive and just trying to change up some objectives. And so the shift for a large part for this particular program was to start working on distributing healthy foods, medicines, and seeds. Not yet, go back. So the team went out and they harvested wild onions and sage and wild carrots and put them together into kind of like a soup packet so that people could go out and make soup, and that was very healthy, had a lot of nutrients and vitamins and minerals. And we did this because when we originally were reaching out to the chapters to see how we could help, the information that they gave us was, just make sure that you provide the people with foods that have long shelf lives, so no healthy foods, no foods that could spoil, and then bottled water. And we thought, wait a moment, a large reason why there's a big the epidemic on Navajo, why it's worse, is because our people have a large lot of underlying health conditions due to the lack of access to healthy foods and fresh water. And so we tried to find some go-arounds with this.
Next slide, Stephanie.
Yes.
And just to let you know, you have about a minute left.
All right. And so that was that youth program. So that's kind of how we shifted there, and that's where we are right now. But with this, with sharing information between our young people and our elders and the people that have been working in this for a while, we have this bigger program that is working on food and water systems on a larger scale. And so we had a big, robust program that was going to be building the capacity of our farmers and growers to be able to grow for the season in a regenerative way, which means building healthy soils, which means increasing the nutrient density of the foods that we're consuming. Unfortunately, that was all put on hold because we don't want our elders, our elder people to be exposed. So we've been trying to shift into do-it-yourself videos, which is kind of hard. It's hard to share information about soil health, in these videos because there's so much complexity to it. But we're trying to overcome that. Go ahead, next slide. And then my team, like I was sharing earlier, we've had to kind of decrease the amount of volunteers that we've been bringing in. And we had a couple of our team kind of come down with the coronavirus. So they're in quarantine. They're good, but they're in quarantine. And so a lot of other people have had to step up and work in their shoes. And I just want to kind of point out, this is Jacques, the one who's driving the tractor. He's a 50-year in-law to Navajo Nation. And he's the one who actually writes like these huge grants, multi-million-dollar grants. And he's like coordinating all these huge efforts. And there he is, working on that 1 acre field because our lead gardener couldn't, be able to be there. And on the right, that's a local official who stepped in and her and her husband started hand trenching hundreds of feet of trench so that they could lay water pipes because the chapters were not, they were closed down. So, these are like instances where a lot of people are stepping up in order to try to figure out how to continue the progress going forward. Even though everything slowed down, it seems the work has increased. In my last slide. And so, as Gloria mentioned earlier, there's all of this COVID funding that's coming down, and they're telling us that we have to spend it by December. And so it's like put everybody in kind of like this really bad place where we have to really be quick about, trying to figure out how we're going to spend this. And we have, the Navajo Nation Council who has their ideas, the executive branch has their ideas, and they seem to be clashing. And they seem to be holding up the process. And so the rest of us, the people who have been working on these types of projects for years now, are you know, trying to kind of provide some input into that process, but also trying to be ready in case the funding does come through and that we are allowed to continue, you know, start on these really big plans that a lot of us have been working on. And this regional plan executive summary, this is something that started at that grassroots level, working with Black Mesa Water Coalition, working with, you know, Gloria with the Food Sovereignty Alliance, and Dana and a bunch of other partners to be able to plan out with our value systems a 500-acre area that could potentially grow to 5,000 if, you know, we're given that go ahead, of 100-acre regenerative food farm, and also a wildlife preservation area and irrigated farming. And, you know, in accompaniment with all the other types of water planning that's needed in order to really have a solid water argument to the water rights issues, litigations that are going on right now. So thank you so much. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Gloria, for everything that you've shared with us just now. So let's shift into Q&A. And the first question that we've been getting is, Gloria, Dana, and Stephanie, are you all able, would it be okay to share the slides that you've shared with us today with the folks that have joined the webinar and other registrants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. And Dana, I've already shared your links, but we can also make sure to send them around with the recording.
Great, thank you.
So let's take a look at the, I wasn't able to take a look at the chat just before.
I saw a couple given time. So one of the big questions that we saw here was about what you were sharing, Dana, around the water rights and the comment period. Is there a way that folks from elsewhere can be putting pressure on the state to help shift that decision, or what's needed?
Yes, please call the Arizona Water Management Branch and tell them that they need to offer an extension to the Navajo Nation for the comment on the hydrological survey on the Little Colorado River watershed. That would be really helpful. We're in the process of like organizing, you know, over calls and everything to get out a campaign. Because our own people aren't even aware this is going on. Like it's been a handful of like nerds who like follow this stuff and track this stuff so we're still organizing to get the word out to our community as well. So in the coming week, we'll have a lot more information about how folks can get involved.
I would like to also suggest that you can go to probably Arizona government and even write to some of the legislators of Arizona to apply pressure onto that, you know, the water office there in Arizona, because the more we, I guess, go into those that are elected officials and let them know that, you know, this is happening. I think even some of the legislators don't even know what's happening in Arizona, but we need to apply pressure on policymakers.
Mm-hmm. Great. There's a question here just about other ways that people want to see if they can support. So there's a question here from Michelle Miller saying that many of our native nations are located at the end of supply chains for food in remote regions. What are the most immediate resources that are needed to raise food? So it is increasingly unnecessary to bring food in, especially junk food. Who'd like to answer that one?
I nominate Stephanie.
I would like to mention that there's a huge emergency relief effort being done in Window Rock with the Navajo government. And I gave the phone number for people that want to donate. Well, according to Navajo President Jonathan Nez, there's a lot of people contributing food to Navajo Nation. And there are kind of like farmer markets down in southern Arizona donating food. And I know over on the New Mexico side, they're organizing a farmer market to get fresh fruits and vegetables. And President Nez is telling folks we need to eat fresh fruits, vegetables, and good food. We just cannot afford to be eating junk food that's bad for our systems. And so he's encouraging all these growers to bring in good food if they want to donate good food to the Navajo Nation citizens.
The biggest issue with healthy foods on Navajo is that we don't have a system where our local leaders or even, you know, people who could help us build infrastructure and water in order to grow our own healthy foods. And that's where it's really going to build our economy so we can strengthen those food and water systems. And so we've been working with a number of people to try to raise funds to provide direct materials and supplies to our local experienced growers so that they can build their own backyard gardens, which is kind of like a way to circumvent all the policies and bureaucracies and red tapes that we face when it comes to growing food on Navajo. So we do have a building resiliency program, and you can donate at TalaniLake.org, and a majority of the proceeds go just directly to direct supplies to our local producers. And we've been able to raise about $7,500 so far, and that's going to buying fences and by purchasing straw bale, and then we're trying to coordinate some volunteer effort, you know, through and building the ways to be safe doing those volunteer efforts.
I want to mention that I'm doing a project with the Shiprock farmers up in the northern New Mexico part of the reservation, and they are so fortunate because they have a lot of farmland and they have a lot of water from the San Juan River. And so we've been meeting and organizing a farmer cooperative with them, and a lot of grants have been applied for funds, and the chapter president up there has submitted actually a $10 million agriculture proposal to the Navajo Council. And, you know, it's to get probably 10,000 acres of farm land reopened up there in the northern Shiprock area of the reservation, because that could be a really good food basket for locally grown Navajo traditional and other kinds of food for the Navajo Nation. So that's kind of like the vision that this particular chapter leader wants to push and move for his Navajo farmers.
Okay, so we could talk all day long about all these issues and needs and priorities that you all have been uplifting now. Thank you so much, Gloria, Dana, and Stephanie. But we are at time, and I want to be respectful of your time and the fact that you are doing so much. There are some other questions. What we'll do is we'll try to get those questions to Dana, Stephanie, and Gloria, and if they have time, they'll try to answer those. We'll also share the recording and some of those other resources and PowerPoint slides for everyone to get involved in whatever way makes sense for you all. And I just want to acknowledge that Gloria is, you know, an elder. And Gloria, I wanted to turn it over to you, if that's okay, to close this out.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's just my and my colleagues' wishes that, you know, all of us will work together in solidarity to address, you know, the issues that are confronting our people with this COVID-19 virus. But we're also knowing that it's so important then to support our local farmers and ranchers to do increase local production of food for our people. And so my heart and my prayers go out to everybody, for everyone to really work together and to take care of one another in this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. With that said, wishing you all a restful, restorative day, and hope you can take some energy and inspiration away from all of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much.